You believe your thoughts are yours. They are not. You believe you create them. You do not. There is a structure operating beneath what you call thinking, a law preceding opinion, a mechanism prior to intention. Until that structure is seen, you remain governed by it. William Walker Atkinson stated plainly, "The mind of man contains the greatest of all forces, that thought is one of the greatest manifestations of energy. Energy is not random. Energy follows law. If thought is energy, then thought obeys structure. And if thought obeys structure, then the identity you defend as me may simply be a pattern of organized vibration. You experience thought as internal speech, but speech is only the surface ripple. Beneath it exists motion." Atkinson wrote, "Everything in the material world is in vibration, ever manifesting a high degree of motion." He did not restrict this to matter. He extended it to mind. The mistake most individuals make is assuming thinking is neutral. It is not. Thinking is participation in vibration. Every thought strengthens a frequency. Every repeated idea deepens a mental groove. And what you call personality may simply be stabilized vibration. Pause. Consider the danger in that. If your thoughts follow vibratory law, if vibration establishes rhythm, if rhythm establishes habit, then your identity may be nothing more than reinforced repetition. Atkinson warned, "Repeated inner patterns harden into character and conduct." Harden. Character is not born, it is crystallized. But here is the hidden fracture in your certainty. If character crystallizes from repeated vibration, then unconscious thought repetition is quietly building your future structure without your consent. You believe you are thinking freely, but perhaps you are vibrating automatically, and vibration attracts correspondence. Atkinson declared, "Thoughts are things, and the law of attraction in the thought world will draw to one just what he desires or fears." Not as mysticism, as law. Law does not negotiate. Law operates. This is where the identity threat begins. If your fears are repeated vibratory patterns, if those patterns attract corresponding conditions, then your external reality may be echoing internal rhythm, not punishment, not fate, structure. You are not merely reacting to the world. You are participating in a vibratory exchange, and most individuals participate unconsciously. The Hermetic axiom declares, "Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates." Everything, including you, including the thoughts you assume are harmless. You think a passing idea disappears. It does not. It sets rhythm. Rhythm sets polarity. Polarity sets direction. Direction sets consequence. You see isolated thoughts. Law sees cumulative motion. You see a bad day. Law sees sustained frequency. You see coincidence. Law sees correspondence. This is the hidden mental law behind your thoughts. Vibration precedes manifestation, but vibration is not controlled by occasional effort. It is governed by dominant pattern, and dominant pattern is formed by repetition. You do not become what you think once. You become what you think most. The danger is subtle, because the law is silent. It does not warn. It does not announce. It simply builds. Atkinson wrote, "The very facts of physical science itself will point the steps of the honest investigator toward the path where he may find the solution of the perplexing riddle." The riddle is not external. It is structural. Why do similar problems recur? Why do emotional states feel familiar? Why do certain outcomes repeat despite intention? Because vibration, once established, resists interruption until a greater force intervenes. But here is the deeper fracture in your assumption. What if you are not the origin of your strongest thought patterns? What if they were induced? Atkinson described how thought vibrations set up induction in the minds of others. Induction, thought influencing thought. Vibration influencing vibration. You are not isolated. You are immersed. Family rhythm, cultural rhythm, collective emotional currents. You absorb more than you generate, and what you absorb may masquerade as self. This is where identity destabilizes. Are your beliefs chosen or inherited vibration? Are your fears rational or inducted pattern? Are your ambitions original or socially transmitted frequency? Most individuals never ask. They defend the pattern. They call it personality. They protect the cage that vibratory law constructed around them. But law is neutral, and neutrality means something else. If vibration builds identity, then controlled vibration can alter structure. But this is not motivational promise. It is structural implication, and structural implication requires precision. Because if uncontrolled vibration built your present state, then intentional vibration must be sustained, not emotional. Brief intensity changes nothing. Dominant rhythm controls outcome. Around you exists constant motion. Within you exists accumulated motion. Between these two fields operates the hidden law. You are not thinking in isolation. You are vibrating within a system, and that system responds. You believe your thoughts are private, they are not. You believe they vanish, they accumulate. You believe identity is fixed, it is rhythmic, and rhythm can be shifted, but only if you understand the mechanism. The first fracture has opened. Your thoughts are not random. They are vibratory events within a structured mental universe, and if this structure is already altering how you see yourself, subscribe. If you truly want to change your life in 2026, comment. If not now, when? The deeper layer has not yet been revealed. Wait. You assume control because you can interrupt a thought, but interruption is not mastery. The deeper law concerns dominance. The Hermetic teaching states, the all is mind, the universe is mental. This is not poetry. It is structural positioning. If the universe is mental in essence, then thought is not a minor activity within existence. It is a causal field. You are not thinking inside reality. You are thinking within a mental universe governed by law. That reframes everything. Because now thought is not commentary, it is participation. Most individuals live in reaction. Reaction strengthens the vibration they claim to oppose. Resentment deepens resentment. Fear magnifies fear. Attention feeds the frequency. Atkinson warned clearly, the man who understands the use of thought force can make of himself practically what he will. But what is misunderstood is this. Understanding is not desire. Understanding is structural alignment. If you think occasionally in one direction but habitually in another, the habitual rhythm wins. Law recognizes dominance, not preference. You say, I want confidence. But your internal dialogue rehearses inadequacy. You say, I seek progress. But your imagination vibrates in anxiety. The law does not hear your spoken intention. It registers your sustained frequency. This is where the identity threat deepens. You are not shaped by what you wish. You are shaped by what you rehearse. Atkinson stated, sustained focus is the practical foundation for changing habits and directing conduct. Sustained, not occasional. The hidden mechanism is concentration, but concentration is misunderstood. It is not strain, it is stabilization of vibration. When attention locks onto a thought repeatedly, it amplifies its wave. Atkinson described thought as vibratory energy projected outward. He explained, the mind, in its manifestation of thought in the brain, generates a form of energy of intensely high vibration. High vibration does not mean emotional excitement. It means frequency beyond sensory detection, invisible, silent, constant. And when repeated, it organizes environment through correspondence. You have witnessed this. Certain individuals enter a room and alter its atmosphere, not by speech, by field. Presence is stabilized vibration. Some carry agitation, others carry calm. This is not personality, it is rhythm control, and rhythm spreads. The principle of correspondence declares, as above, so below, as below, so above. Internal pattern, external echo, microcosm, macrocosm. If agitation dominates your internal rhythm, expect agitation in circumstance, not because of superstition, because of alignment. You draw what matches, not because you hope, because vibration seeks similarity. This is induction. Atkinson described how mental states transmit. You are influencing and being influenced continuously. Most people never examine the direction of their strongest internal current. They assume environment shapes them. But environment often mirrors them, and this is where resistance emerges. Because accepting vibratory causation removes blame, it removes victim narrative, it removes comfort. If repeated emotional patterns create structural consequence, then you are not powerless, but you are also not innocent. Law does not judge, it balances, and balancing feels like fate to the unconscious mind, but it is mechanism. Here is the deeper layer. Vibration establishes polarity. Polarity establishes extremes, and rhythm swings between poles. You experience this as emotional cycles, high enthusiasm, sudden doubt, momentum, then collapse. The Hermetic teaching states, everything flows out and in, everything has its tides. Rhythm is law. If you overextend into excitement without stabilization, the swing returns. This is why most progress collapses, because they build intensity, not equilibrium. True control is not emotional elevation. It is neutral dominance, the ability to remain internally aligned, regardless of external shift. But that requires understanding another mechanism, mental gender. Passive mind receives impression. Active mind directs impression. Most individuals live in passive receptivity. They absorb news, absorb opinion, absorb collective fear, then wonder why anxiety dominates their thought field. They are not thinking, they are vibrating by induction, and induction feels like self, until examined. This is the fracture widening. If you do not consciously select your dominant internal pattern, the world will select it for you, through repetition, through emotional stimulation, through environmental saturation, and once stabilized, that pattern will produce consistent correspondence. You will call it coincidence, but it is rhythm completing its arc. Most people attempt surface change, new goal, new affirmation, new plan, but they do not alter the dominant internal vibration. So the structure remains intact, and life reorganizes them back into familiar territory. Because law preserves established rhythm, this is the hidden tension. Freedom exists, but only for the one who understands vibratory dominance. Without awareness, repetition builds prison. With awareness, repetition builds direction. But direction requires interruption of unconscious cycles, and interruption requires something rare, will. Atkinson distinguished between desire and will. Desire imagines, will stabilizes, desire fluctuates, will sustains, and sustained internal direction alters rhythm over time, not instantly, gradually, inevitably. But here the mystery deepens, because altering internal vibration does more than shift personal condition. It changes your field of influence, and once your field shifts, the external world reorganizes in response. You have seen it before. Someone changes internally, and suddenly relationships shift. Opportunities appear, conflicts dissolve, not magic, field alteration. But this introduces consequence, because once you understand vibratory causation, you cannot return to ignorance. Every repeated complaint, every rehearsed resentment, every indulged fear becomes recognized as construction, and construction implies responsibility. The law behind your thoughts does not punish, it reflects, and reflection is relentless. The structure beneath your thinking is now partially exposed, but the deeper layer concerns something more unsettling. What if your strongest emotional patterns are not personal at all? What if they belong to collective rhythm? And what if breaking from that collective current requires separation from group identity? That fracture has not yet been examined. You believe your strongest emotions are personal. They may not be. They may be collective currents moving through you. Atkinson wrote, just as important are defenses against undue influence, cultivating emotional poise, independent judgment, and a firm inner center. Defense implies exposure. Exposure implies transmission. Most individuals are not generating their emotional climate. They are receiving it. You enter a room and feel tension. You scroll through headlines and feel agitation. You speak with someone fearful and feel unease. Induction, vibration transferring vibration. Atkinson explained how thought vibrations set up induction in the minds of others. This is not metaphor, it is mechanism. And if induction is constant, then your identity is porous. Your mood may not be yours. Your anxiety may not originate in you. Your certainty may not be independent. Collective rhythm exists. Social rhythm exists. Family rhythm exists. And the unconscious mind harmonizes with dominant frequency, because harmony is law. The Hermetic principle of vibration states, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. If everything vibrates, then every group has a field, every nation, every generation, every digital platform. Fields generate pressure. Pressure encourages conformity, and conformity stabilizes group rhythm. You feel it as belonging, but belonging can be vibratory absorption. This is where the deeper fracture opens. If you break from collective rhythm, you experience discomfort, isolation, resistance, subtle rejection. Why? Because your frequency no longer matches the field, and fields seek cohesion. Most individuals unconsciously preserve group alignment to avoid tension. They defend collective narratives. They adopt emotional reactions in synchrony. They call it opinion, but it may be resonance. This is not accusation, it is observation. Atkinson warned repeatedly about the danger of passive mentality. He wrote, "The growing soul must realize that it has within itself all that it requires. In the end, it must do its own work and must stand on its own feet." Standing on one's own feet is vibratory independence, not rebellion, stability. When your internal rhythm is self-directed, external fields lose dominance. But achieving this requires something rare, emotional neutrality. Most people attempt to counter one vibration with its opposite: fear with forced optimism, anger with suppression, doubt with exaggerated affirmation. But polarity without equilibrium triggers rhythm swing. The Hermetic teaching states, everything flows out and in, everything has its tides. When you push intensely toward one pole, the pendulum returns. This is why emotional extremes collapse. The hidden law is not think positive, it is stabilize vibration. Stabilization requires observation before reaction. It requires noticing induction without absorbing it. It requires maintaining internal center while the collective swings. This is rare, because collective rhythm is amplified by repetition, and repetition creates perceived truth. When thousands repeat fear, fear feels justified. When millions repeat outrage, outrage feels moral. But vibratory law does not measure morality. It measures frequency, and frequency organizes experience accordingly. This leads to the unknown consequence. If collective rhythm intensifies, and you unconsciously synchronize, you inherit outcomes not individually chosen. You experience structural shifts in life shaped by fields you never questioned. And then you say, this is just how things are. But how things are may be accumulated vibration across minds. Pause. What if your deepest frustrations are symptoms of misaligned resonance? What if your fatigue comes not from effort, but from sustaining vibration that contradicts your inner structure? What if your sense of stagnation is not lack of opportunity, but harmonic conflict between your true direction and adopted frequency? Most never ask, because questioning collective rhythm threatens identity, and identity resists dissolution. But here is the law beneath the law. Dominant vibration becomes environment. First internally, then relationally, then circumstantially. Atkinson observed, personal magnetism, an integrated presence that influences circumstances without coercion. Integrated presence, not emotional reaction, not borrowed conviction. Integrated vibration. When your thought, emotion, and will align, your field stabilizes, and stabilized fields influence rather than absorb. This is why some individuals remain calm in chaos. They are not unaffected. They are dominant, not over others, over themselves. And self-dominance alters correspondence. You begin attracting differently, not because of hope, because of coherence. But here is the more unsettling implication. If you have lived in collective resonance for years, if your identity is woven into group rhythm, then altering your internal vibration may feel like losing yourself. You may lose agreement. You may lose validation. You may lose familiarity. This is the cost of structural independence. Most retreat. They resynchronize. They return to familiar frequency because discomfort feels like danger, but it is only transitional dissonance. If sustained long enough, new vibration stabilizes. And once stabilized, it attracts new correspondence, new associations, new patterns, not by force, by resonance. This is not about escaping the world. It is about ceasing unconscious participation. The hidden mental law behind your thoughts is deeper than attraction. It is deeper than vibration. It concerns selection. You are constantly selecting frequency through attention. Attention is tuning. What you repeatedly observe, you internalize. What you internalize, you amplify. What you amplify, you express. And what you express, returns. The loop is continuous. Most are unaware they are inside it, and awareness changes participation. But awareness alone is insufficient, because once you see the loop, You face something more difficult, choice, and choice disrupts comfort. The next layer reveals why most individuals, even after understanding this structure, fail to sustain change, because they underestimate one force, and that force governs the threshold between knowledge and transformation. Wait, you now see the structure: vibration, induction, dominance, resonance. But knowledge alone does not alter rhythm. The hidden force most overlook is will. Atkinson separated desire from will for a reason. Desire fluctuates, will sustains. He wrote, "Sustained focus is the practical foundation for changing habits and directing conduct." Sustained, not emotional, not dramatic, sustained. Here is where most fail. They understand vibratory law. They attempt brief correction. Then they return to unconscious repetition. Because old rhythm is comfortable, and comfort feels safe. But rhythm does not care about comfort. The Hermetic teaching states, "The principles of truth are 7. He who knows these understandingly possesses the magic key." Understandingly, not intellectually, embodied, applied, repeated. The will is the stabilizer of new vibration. Without will, awareness collapses into habit. With will, repetition shifts frequency. And once frequency shifts long enough, the structure reorganizes. Not instantly, inevitably. But here is the deeper tension. Will requires isolation from collective rhythm. You cannot stabilize a new frequency while constantly immersing in opposing fields. You must withdraw attention, withdraw reaction, withdraw participation in emotional contagion. Most refuse this because it costs stimulation, it costs validation, it costs familiarity. So they remain in oscillation, and oscillation produces no structural shift. The hidden mental law behind your thoughts is this: dominant sustained vibration, directed by stabilized will, reorganizes identity and environment through correspondence. If will is weak, induction governs you. If will is stable, you govern your field. But the final layer is more severe, because once you master internal vibration, you begin to perceive something else. Thought does not only shape experience, it defines the boundaries of what you believe is possible. And most boundaries are inherited. That boundary is the final fracture, and it has not yet been broken. The boundary was never external, it was vibratory. You believed circumstances defined possibility. They did not. Your dominant internal frequency defined the limits of what you could perceive, attempt, and sustain. Atkinson stated, "He who grasps the truth of the mental nature of the universe is well advanced on the path to mastery." Mastery is not control of others. It is control of internal rhythm. Once vibration is stabilized by will, each correspondence shifts. Once correspondence shifts, identity expands. And when identity expands, what once felt impossible becomes structurally accessible, not because reality changed, because you did. This is the hidden mental law behind your thoughts. You are not governed by isolated ideas. You are governed by sustained vibratory dominance. Unconscious repetition builds limitation. Conscious repetition builds direction. Most individuals live inside inherited frequency. A few learn to select it. And once selection becomes deliberate, the boundary dissolves. But understand this clearly. This law is only the surface. Beneath vibration lies another structure, a deeper mechanism operating before thought itself. That layer has not yet been examined, and when it is, you will realize you never truly understood the mind at all.